After spending 100 days sentenced to trying to terraform this planet, bringing it to life and discovering the mysteries it held, I'm still stuck here, waiting for a ride back home from Sentinel Corp. The place looks a lot different from what it was like back on day 1, having gone from a barren red planet to this beautiful place. There's still more work to be done though, and this time I think I might finally be able to escape. Considering I haven't played in over a year and there have been a lot of changes, I was a little worried there might be some problems with my bases. When I logged in though, I found everything was just like I'd left it. I've missed you, butterflies! Once I was sure my save was still intact with the new 1.0 version of the game, I knew exactly what I wanted to do first. Gotta go get those statues from my very first base. Spoiler alert for those who haven't watched the first 100 days, I didn't originally build this base underwater, but that's where it's at now. I'd left those statues when I moved everything, having tried to deconstruct them with no luck. Turns out though, according to all the comments, you can just pick them up. And sure enough, you can. Would you look at that? As I brought them back, I remembered I had a bunch of old blueprint chips in my junk storage. I'd run out of things to unlock with them before, maybe now they'll work. I decoded them to find all sorts of new things I can make, including some sort of spacesuit displayer, a better deconstruction chip, an explosive, some new rockets, and this flare.
Oh, there's butterflies. They're pretty.
I made a new shelf for my statues next, and then had another look at the blueprints to see what new stuff I could make.
Ecosystem?
I almost chose this ecosystem, but decided on this water life collector first. It needed bioplastic to make, which if I have, I can't find it, so I went to see what I needed to craft it. Having been so long since I played, it might take a bit of adjusting to get used to everything again, including these crazy meteor storms. Well, I needed to go back inside to check for mushrooms anyway. There were a couple in storage and several seeds. I thought I might plant a couple in these planters until I remembered there was a bigger outdoor farm I could make instead. Of course, it also needed more stuff I didn't have. Maybe I should just spend some time stocking back up on some of the basics. I gathered a bunch of cobalt from the lake, a few random bits a meteor left, some bottles of water and algae until my backpack was full, then took it all back to base and attempted to organize things. It started to get dark after that, and I'd forgotten how beautiful this place was at night. Stopped by the biodome and checked everything on its unlocked screen. I'm just so excited to build all these new things. At the end of the day, I checked my screen to find I was at the fish stage of terraformation.
Ooh.
I'd ended at the breathable atmosphere stage in my first 100 days. I played a little longer until I realized there was no end to the game. I got back on track the next morning, gathering things. For my outdoor farm, I needed one more bee larva, and for that I needed mutagen. I'd been working on some automation for things like that and fertilizer, but remembered that sulfur had always been a problem, so I headed to the sulfur fields to collect some. On my way, I noticed a new biome off in the distance where I could see several waterfalls. I can't wait to go explore all the new things that have been added. Sulfur first, though. I grabbed the sulfur from the ore extractor I put there a long time ago. Then on my way back, I realized I was about to dehydrate and was really hungry too. Oops. I may not have to worry about oxygen anymore here on this planet, but I'll still starve to death all the same. I decided to upgrade the extractor after that and grabbed everything I needed before heading back. Oh yeah, I was supposed to get some food. There we go. Full of squash, I got back to work and placed a new T2 ore extractor before deconstructing the old one. While I was there, I collected some sulfur on the ground too, along with some silicone because if I remember right, it was also something I was always running low on. I took the sulfur back to the automation station on the lake, and as soon as I put it in storage, the auto crafters started crafting. I suppose it's not very automated if I have to go get the sulfur though. Gonna have to fix that soon. For now, at least I've got enough stuff to make the bee larva I need. I dropped off the silicone next, which made another auto crafter start working to make the super alloy, and then I got a new message. It's been a long time since I've had a new message. When I went to read it, I also got this notification about a trade space rocket blueprint. Ooh. Turns out it was sent by Riley, which is what the message was about. Aw, thanks. I am still alive, actually. I immediately checked what I needed to build it. The rods and engine are easy enough, but I'm not sure if I've ever had any circuit boards. I looked in my more stuff box in case I had some in there. No luck, though I did find another statue. Get on the shelf. I decided to make this sign next, below all my screens to help me track my days. Then headed off to check out the other bases for circuit boards. Neither of them had any either, but look, I've got more blueprint chips here. Tasty. I took them home to decode, unlocking a couple more microchips I can make. After that though, it wouldn't decode anymore, and I put the rest back in the junk closet. I checked the crafting station next for those circuit boards, and of course, there it was. It required some things I already had, along with the same bioplastic I'd needed the mushrooms for, and a nitrogen cartridge I think must be new. I wonder what's new in the other crafting station. There were several chips I could make, like this blueprint pinning chip. Now I can pin the recipes for things like this outdoor farm. Oh look, my bee larva is done. I grabbed the other things I needed from storage and finally had myself some mushrooms growing. I'd have to wait for them to grow to make the bioplastic though, so instead I decided to make a gas extractor and see if I could find that nitrogen gas. I pinned it and grabbed all the materials before teleporting over to my waterfall base. There was this crazy purple mushroom biome here, and I wondered if placing the gas extractor there would work. As I headed to one of the entrances, I noticed an old base of mine was floating here. I guess the terrain must have changed at some point in an update there. After noticing that, I also saw these new reddish trees and let curiosity get the best of me. I made my way past the trees and on through this arch that definitely wasn't here before. Beyond it was two paths to choose from, but I could already see that one was a lot more interesting. So interesting, in fact, that I completely missed the day change as it turned night and followed the path to the left to find this new lava biome. The place looked really cool. I found out pretty quickly though, it was actually very hot. Guess I should be more careful where I step next time. There was obsidian here, which I hadn't seen before. I wanted to explore the whole place. I was supposed to be doing something though. Oh yeah, the gas extractor. Maybe I'll get something new with it here. I stuck it down to find it collecting the same methane cartridge as always, so instead I grabbed all the obsidian and super alloy I could carry. With my pockets full, I headed off to check for gas in this spacey place, and then in the mushroom cave, neither of which gave me the purple nitrous cartridge I needed. Darn it. Low on storage at the main base, I decided to drop off the obsidian at the waterfall, where I discovered I already had a couple of the bioplastics. I grabbed them and teleported back home just as I unlocked this new T2 gas extractor. Well, that would have been nice earlier. I used the bioplastics along with some silk and a super alloy to finally make that water life collector, then placed it on, well, the water. It collects something called phytoplankton, which it says you can make fish with. Now we're talking. My mushrooms were done now that I don't really need them anymore, though I'm sure I will for something else soon enough. Then the sky turned purple and a single giant meteor showed up. Ooh, I remember those. I jetpacked over as it crashed to the ground, knowing there was pulsar quartz to be found. I remember this was one of the last and most rare resources when I played before, so I was pretty excited and grabbed them all. Continuing my work terraforming, I wanted to build this new ecosystem thing next. It needs T2 fertilizer and mutagen, which means I'm gonna have to straighten out this automation station on the lake finally. I checked the gas extractor there to see if it was backed up with oxygen to find it had the nitrous I'd been looking for earlier. Well, that was easy enough. Then I got distracted checking my water life collector. It had phytoplankton in it already, so I took them back to the incubator to see if I could make some fish. But turns out it takes another mutagen I don't have right now. It was night though, and I changed my day sign, completely oblivious to the fact I'd actually missed a day. Oops. Then I set this autocrafter to make some more bioplastic with those mushrooms, so I could use the new nitrous to make my first circuit board. Now I can make this new T2 gas extractor. You can choose what gas it extracts, and I was pretty excited about that. I deconstructed it and teleported it over to the sand base. Oops. I meant to go to the waterfall. This ore extractor here collects sulfur, which will make it possible to set up the automated crafting for all the different fertilizer and mutagen I've been needing. I stuck the gas extractor by it for now, then started setting up some platforms and an algae generator on the water. I popped back home after that to grab a super alloy rod for this auto crafter, then again to deconstruct some things I wanted to move over. Back at the waterfall, I placed one more auto crafter and this lake water collector, putting the water bottles back inside it for now. And just like that, the first step was done and the bacteria samples started auto-crafting. I added a bit of storage next as it turned dark. Guess I should probably go change my calendar. It's technically day 105, but I didn't know it at the time. Either way, I went right back to work on the automation station, adding the gas extractor for nitrous and the ore extractor for sulfur. I put some into storage too, and now I've got T3 mutagen crafting. When it was done, I immediately went home to put it into the incubator with some fertilizer and a phytoplankton bee. Ooh, we're making our first fishy. While I waited for the incubator to incubate, I moved over my squash and my eggplant I need for the fertilizer, along with another smaller gas extractor for the blue methane cartridges. After that, I had some extra materials from another outdoor farm I deconstructed, and used those along with this tree bark to make this new T2 beehive. It produces honey like the T1 versions, and bee larvae, so I won't have to make them in the incubator anymore. It was dark now, and I changed the calendar again, checking my progress too, then started to head back to the waterfall base when I realized I'd forgotten about the fish. Look how pretty. I grabbed the Ikaru eggs it had made with a 325% multiplier, and then collected more phytoplankton from the water life collector. This time it had some fish eggs too. They were called Provios fish eggs with a 100% multiplier, but I was excited all the same. I took them straight inside and went upstairs to put them in a fish tank. Aquariums are one of my favorite things, and I can't wait to fill this whole place with them. First though, I've got to finish the automation I was setting up so I'll have a steady supply of fertilizer and mutagen. Back at the waterfall, I dove into the water when I noticed these fish. I hadn't seen them in the wild till now and took a quick break to check them out. Continuing with the automation, I added an extra water collector and moved over this auto crafter from my old setup, setting it to craft the basic fertilizer from eggplants, algae, and sulfur. Ooh, I bet we're getting close to the next terraforming stage now. I ran home and checked the screen, which was at 98%, almost to amphibians. I wanted to see it change, but I also didn't want to stand in front of the screen and wait. Fortunately, I've got some new fish to distract me. To make another aquarium to put them in though, I need more of those circuit boards. And the circuit boards need more bioplastic, and I'm fresh out. Maybe I can work on automating those. I grabbed the mushrooms and moved the outdoor farm to just behind my base in range of the auto crafter, then moved the water collector to my roof above it. Then, as I was putting the extra water into storage, I got a new unlock for T4 mutagen. Oh, that must mean I reached the next stage. Sure enough, I'd missed it, and now the next stage is mammals. Or is this a game of Name That Pokemon? Either way, I'm excited to see some frogs soon. To finish off my bioplastic automation, I needed osmium to make an ore extractor for silicone here. If I remember right, there's a cave up by this crash site full of osmium. It was definitely full of osmium, but all of it was way too big for me to pick up. I guess I'll need an ore extractor for that. I continued searching the cave and it turned to zeolite next. I had an old extractor there I cleaned out before making my way to the other side of the cave to my sand base. Seems like maybe I had some osmium stored here anyway. I grabbed all of it and took it back, but then didn't have enough super alloy to make the rod I needed. I knew I'd found a bunch in the lava biome before and headed that way to collect some more. Once again, missing the change tonight as I went. I gathered all the super alloy I could find and a bit of obsidian too before drifting over to check out the big shipwreck here. I made my way inside and deconstructed some debris that was in the way. This wall though requires a T2 deconstruction chip to break. Guess I'll have to come back for that. I pilfered a couple boxes for some goodies. Most of it I'd seen before until this third box, which had this DNA looking thing called a genetic trait. I was all out of inventory space, but I traded some iron for it and this new blue Blazar quartz. On my way back out, I ended up stuck. I thought I was doomed to starve to death there until I eventually managed to wiggle my way out. I remember in my first 100 days here, before this place had a breathable atmosphere, searching wrecks like this was a lot more stressful, having to worry about running out of oxygen too. Once I made it back to my main base, I didn't even need the super alloy anymore because I'd found the rod I needed in the wreck. I used it to make this T2 ore extractor, which will mostly collect iron, but occasionally other things like silicone for the bioplastic auto crafting. With that set up now, I went back to the waterfall to finish one more autocrafter there, setting it to make regular mutagen. Things seemed to be working well here. I had plenty of T3 mutagen and fertilizer to collect. Then, after adding one more autocrafter for the T2 fertilizer, I noticed I unlocked these Hooly frog eggs and rushed home to see exactly what I needed to make them. The incubator says I need generic frog eggs and T4 mutagen, neither of which I have yet, so instead I started cooking up another set of fish eggs. I made the T2 deconstruction chip I needed while I waited and spent a bit of time stocking up on silicone. While I was out, I unlocked this new T5 drill too, just before I took the silicone back to get the bioplastic going. It was starting to get dark and I dreamed for a moment about being able to sleep. I'm not sure why I even have this bed here. Guess I'll just spend the night looking at these little screens I haven't checked since my first 100 days. I'd forgotten how many rockets I'd launched, and I can launch another to expand my map even further now. And looks like power shouldn't be an issue for a while. I checked my terraformation progress next and changed the calendar. Now it's already 2 days behind, just like my calendar in real life that's 2 months behind. I started off the next morning with some water and a space snack while I watched these butterflies, then set my sights on making this new machine optimizer. I had all the stuff in storage and put it down in range for several power plants and heaters. Too bad I didn't know yet that it doesn't do anything without fuses inside. At least I've got the stuff to build this ecosystem now. I'd found a T2 mutagen in the lava wreck. You have to make it with larvae, and I hadn't figured out a way to automate that yet. But this ecosystem produces larvae? How convenient. It was really pretty too, which reminded me, I want more fish tanks. I had plenty of bioplastic now to make the circuit boards I needed for them, but once again, I needed more silicone. I checked my aluminum ore extractor, hoping to find a couple pieces, but only found one. I emptied it anyway and found one more piece on the ground before heading back to put everything in storage. It was enough for 2 circuit boards to make 2 tanks. I suppose that works for now though, I'm almost out of space. And speaking of space, I think I might expand the place. After building through the night and into day 109, I changed my mind and rebuilt the whole thing with a large compartment instead of the smaller ones, mostly so it would match the storage on the other side of my base. I finished it up with some stairs and then was going to add a door, but of course I needed more silicone first. I went to grab some and unlocked this new T3 ore extractor on the way, before getting completely distracted when I remembered I'd forgotten to change the day. Oops. Sure would hate to mess that up. I was so excited about building that I completely forgot this is actually a survival game. Just don't watch this part, go comment something nice instead. Or maybe subscribe. With more space up top now, I could add more fish tanks, but I was out of fish eggs and put some more in to incubate before checking the water life catcher again. Plenty more plankton looks like, and more Provios fish eggs. Better than nothing, at least, I guess. As it was getting dark, I went to change the day again. When I saw the new ecosystem out the window, I'd completely forgotten about. Oh, I wonder if it has any larvae in it yet. It did, but nothing I hadn't seen before. Then, back inside, I realized my fish was done, and this was a new one. Golden fish eggs for a 500% multiplier. Now that's what I'm talking about. There wasn't a recipe for these. I think I must have just gotten lucky. I reloaded it with more plankton, mutagen, and fertilizer. Oops, I got distracted and almost forgot to change the day again. Now, get in the tank, fishies. I was really loving the new fish, but you know what I haven't done in a while? Launch a rocket. I flew over to the launch platform to see what I needed to launch something into space. Looks like there's a new insect rocket, so I pinned the recipe for it and went back to grab everything I needed. Back to the launch platform now. This new rocket looked like one I could really hang on to, so I did. And it sure took me for a ride. Is there an achievement for getting hit by your own rocket? The rocket ended up in this pond instead of space, but I'm sure it'll be fine. See, here it is on my rocket screen. I had a quick look at my progress next, and another fish was done. I started another one and went upstairs to put them in a tank. I had more of the basic Provios fish too now, and all my tanks were full. After that, I set my sights on making this drone station, which needed a fusion energy cell. It required obsidian, which I had stored at the waterfall base, then pulsar quartz and osmium I already had plenty of. I made a couple cells at this auto crafter and grabbed everything else I needed. Then, as I built it out back, I heard a very familiar sound. The power was out. The drone station took too much power, so I deconstructed it for now, and went inside to grab the quartz and alloy to make this nuclear fusion generator. Now let's try that again. Perfect. I was excited to see how it worked, and read the instructions for a bit before checking to see what I needed to make my first drone. Well, that should be easy enough. It's getting night though, I better change the day. I grabbed some rocket engines and made the circuit boards next. Oddly enough, I didn't have the easiest thing of all, iron. Once I collected it, though, I made myself 2 drones. And now I just have to figure out how to make them work. You can set up supply and demand on inventories with this little gear button, but I don't exactly know what I want to send or where. All my inventories are mostly full, or very unorganized at least, and just looking at them all and trying to figure it out got me feeling a bit overwhelmed. So I ended up running away from my problems and going to build this frog farm instead I can't even use yet. And you know, I really should go check on the automation at the waterfall. It was working all great except for this T2 fertilizer. I wasn't sure what the holdup was until I checked the gas extractor. It was full of nitrogen. I ended up switching the T2 gas extractor to methane for now and putting all the nitrogen in storage, and switched one autocrafter to make the new T4 mutagen. I finished the evening with a quick swim break and a nice shiny space food for dinner, then even remembered to change the day that night. The next morning, I decided to empty the water life collector and take it over to the waterfall to see what I might catch there. I'd noticed that the waterfall looked different from what I remembered and decided to take a break to explore it. I jetpacked around in the falling water and it was really hard to see, but my efforts paid off eventually. I found this ledge and a cave full of these strange things sticking out of the ground. There was a storage box full of goodies too. Then this message caught my eye. After reading it, I'm pretty sure those things sticking out of the ground might actually be grave markers. It made me a little sad, and then I took all their stuff from these storage boxes, including something new I hadn't seen before: spacesuits. Ooh. I took everything back and recycled all of their old gear. I'd forgotten how much fun this recycler was. Now to try on one of those spacesuits I found.
Oh, I can't stop. How do I stop dancing?
This apparently made me go into celebration mode, and it took me a minute to figure out how to make it stop. Well, that was fun. Then things got even more exciting when I spotted my first frog.
You're so cute, Mr. Frog.
Now, if only I could find some eggs. Well, I guess I'll just have to keep making fish for now.
Better fishies.
I changed the calendar and then finally made this T3 ore extractor the next morning. It had a smaller storage box than the T2 version, but looks like you can pick the exact ore you want it to mine, including that silicone I'm always looking for. With that, I decided it was finally time to make use of the drones and placed a brand new storage box next to the extractor. I clicked the gear inside its inventory to find a demand and supply list. I wasn't exactly sure what to do and just sort of looked at it all for a minute. Eventually, I decided I probably needed to set a demand for this box, choosing iron for now. Then set the ore extractor box to supply anything it picked up, and the drones went to work.
Oh, there they go. Oh my god, they're so fast.
I was so excited I fell off the platform, then realized with the drones it might actually be better to just have the old T2 extractor here. I had it collecting random ore here for super alloy, but it would always get backed up. If I set up some more storage though and have the drones empty it, that should work perfect. I didn't know how far the drones would go from their station and tried setting up my aluminum extractor to supply too. As I headed home, I saw the 2 little drones on their way to pick up the stuff. With aluminum being delivered, that will completely automate my super alloy production. After that, I added back the new T3 extractor too and set it to collect sulfur, then deconstructed part of my old automation station on the lake for the materials for more storage. I moved my gas extractor closer to base 2 and set it to supply. Then before I knew it, it was night. Better change that day sign again. The next morning started with more fish. I was out of space for aquariums and switching out any higher multiplier fish I got with the lower ones now. Then I placed a couple more of these butterfly farms before remembering I had the stuff for that trade rocket. There's been so much new all at once, I'd completely forgotten about it. And speaking of new stuff, there's all sorts I can buy from this thing. I scrolled through the items and then hustled off to grab some things to sell. Some bacteria samples, all this fabric, and a few random rods. In the rocket you go. It still wasn't quite full, so I teleported over to the waterfall where I knew I had a ton of these iridium rods. That should do the trick. I launched it from the console and off it went. Guess I just wait for it to come back now.
Oh, look at you go.
I had the stuff for another ecosystem ready early the next day and ended up building it over at my sand base. It was too much though and overloaded my power system again. Instead of deconstructing it, I wandered around in the dark collecting things to make this nuclear reactor.
Power!
I didn't have enough quartz for the good purple ones, but this one will do fine for now. After that, I popped over to the waterfall and remembered to check the water life collector I'd moved there. Inside, there were several of these new Tillu fish eggs with a 400% multiplier. Ooh, very nice. I took them straight over to trade out with some of the lower percentage eggs I had in my aquariums. That should help to raise the animal level on the planet faster, hopefully unlocking even more stuff, like this T2 butterfly farm. It takes the fabric I just sold to build it, but I can make more from silk here at this autocrafter. The rocket returned next with my first Terra tokens, and I added this storage box for things I wanted the drones to load on the rocket, setting it to supply anything I put in it. Then loaded it with fabric and bacteria samples before going to set the rocket to demand the different items I wanted to sell. It had a setting to enable it to auto-launch when full, and I checked that too. It's not fully automated, but I can just dump things in the storage and the drones will load it on the rocket for me. But now I've got some new butterfly farms to build. These have a much higher insect output than the smaller ones, so I went looking for my golden butterflies to put inside.
Oh, that's a problem.
I checked at the waterfall first, then remembered I had most of the good ones at the sand base. There you are. I took it back with me and found that the new farm actually holds 2 butterfly. I'll need to go get another to put in it.
Butterfly party.
But first I'm thirsty. I ate some beans too and then took an accidental dance break.
Well,
Then used some silkworms to make a second silk generator. I'll be able to make more of the fabric to sell and to make more of these T2 butterfly farms. While the silkworms were silking, I headed off to grab some zeolite, grabbing all of it I could carry and then setting it to supply the drones. It's the furthest thing I've tried yet from the drone station. Guess we'll see if it works. I jetted back home and set up a storage box for the zeolite, then got back to making more butterfly farms.
also, it is nighttime again, so we get to change the day.
It was still dark when I went back to the sand base to get more of the better butterflies from the farms there. I also grabbed a few things from inside the base, like these rods I can sell. Then took the butterflies home to put in the new, bigger farms. After that, I set up this old bacteria autocrafter on the lake to supply so it can just go straight to the rocket. I'd added quite a lot of jobs for the drones at this point and decided I should probably make another one.
Get to work.
Then it was one more butterfly farm out at the waterfall. I was pretty much out of butterfly larvae at this point and put in some rare larvae to the incubators to make more, grabbing a drink next and remembering to check the water life collector. It was all plankton again this time, and I was all out of space. So back at my home base, I finally decided to build one of these things, a shredder. I never really thought I'd need one, but I didn't have any more storage, and I really don't need all these. Bye-bye, plankton. It was past time to do some exploring again, and I packed up some water and snacks, then made my way back to the lava. My goal was to finish exploring the ship here, but things got a little sidetracked. As I went inside, I heard something and went back outside to find one of the massive super alloy storms. I guess for some reason I thought I could try to gather it while meteors were still raining from the sky. Yeah, I don't recommend giving that a try.
Ooh, ooh.
I hid in the ship as I waited for it to pass after that.
Are y'all done now?
Then ran out like a little kid grabbing candy from a piñata.
Ooh, yeah.
Trying to grab as much of it as I could before it disappeared. While I was searching, I found something even more exciting though, my first frog eggs.
Oh, little baby lava frogs.
And not just any frog eggs either, these had a 500% multiplier. I found this blue chest next and then continued back to the ship. My inventory was already over half full now, but I cleared out a bit more debris and collected one more chest. Then as I deconstructed this thing, it dropped a circuit board. Oh, I'll happily trade some iron for that. I'll have to come back another time for the rest. I left for home really excited about those frog eggs, and on my way I got a bit lost. Thankfully though, I'd installed a new map chip on my suit. Oh, I'm actually very lost. I made it back late that night though, just in time to change the calendar. Day 117, I put the frog eggs in the amphibian farm. I have a feeling I was supposed to find some other frog eggs first, but these sure look cool. Or hot, I guess, really. I put away the other stuff next, still struggling with storage. Then I headed over to spin my first Terra tokens. It started storming again while I was there. Better fill up my health just in case I get hit by a meteor again. Now, back to shopping. I ordered the only things I could afford, cocoa and wheat seeds, then launched the rocket back into space. After taking a minute to look at my frogs again, the butterflies I had incubated were done and I put them out in the farms. Then it started raining and I gathered the stuff to build this new T2 aquarium. Of course, it led to another low power situation, but I've got the stuff for one of these purple generators. So I made one and put the giant fishbowl back. I traded out the best fish from my indoor aquariums for the new big one. Look, I can even swim with them. Despite the new aquarium, I still had some extra fish eggs, so I made this plaque I'd unlocked to stick one on the wall. And would you looky there, I just unlocked a fish farm. I had everything already I needed to make it and placed it right in the lake beside the big aquarium. I started some more fish incubating next and traded out my golden fish eggs to go in the farm. Be free, fishies, be free. Ready for more fish, I deconstructed these algae generators for their plastic and made 2 more fish farms that day, then 2 more drones too. Oh look, the rocket's back. I grabbed my seeds from inside and found the drones already had it full of stuff to sell. In place of the seeds, I put in a couple circuit boards and sent it back. I placed the cocoa and wheat seeds in these small planters for now, then added 2 more outdoor farms to move them to later, and spent the rest of my evening setting up the drones to pick up larvae from the T2 beehive and ecosystem. Trying to add all the larvae to the demand list was a bit tricky, but I think I got them all. Better go change that day sign again. I missed it last night too. I wonder how many days I'll be off by the end of this challenge. The next morning, I decided to make a better setup for incubating things and moved the incubator to this new room along with adding 2 new ones. Then I moved all the stuff I needed for them into the storage here. I immediately started some fish eggs but needed more T2 mutagen for the butterfly larva I wanted to make. Guess I'll add an autocrafter here too. By then, the fish were done and I started one more butterfly. Now I'm out of fertilizer though. Well, darn. I made a fish farm for the better set of eggs and went back to find I had golden butterflies waiting on me. The recipe wasn't listed for them. I guess I just got lucky. I got these red ones too and made a T2 butterfly farm for them. Too bad I don't have enough power for it. Boo. I recycled an iridium rod so I could make some pulsar quartz and placed yet another generator. More power for more butterflies. I wanted to get ahead on power this time and needed more osmium for the pulsar quartz, so I decided to put down another ore extractor in the osmium cave. But I needed more osmium to make it. I had some at the sand base though and took it back through the cave when I spotted these pretty blue Treju frogs.
Frogs.
Give me those eggs. I placed the extractor after that at the entrance and then set it to supply. I should probably make some more drones soon. Instead, though, I grabbed some fertilizer from the waterfall and made more butterflies that night. Oh, hang on. I almost forgot about those new frogs. I started some new butterfly farms for all the butterflies I'd just made, then made one more butterfly to fill them up. Back inside, I found I had several pulsar quartz ready in the autocrafter. One more power generator won't hurt. There was a super alloy storm that day too. It came while I was checking the trade rocket console. I hid inside for a while, then gathered the alloy it dropped. While I was doing that, I found my first generic frog eggs. Ooh. I used the super alloy to make one more generator and made another amphibian farm for those frog eggs. Then I immediately turned around and took them out when I needed them for these new frogs I unlocked. Aren't they pretty? On the morning of day 122, I placed another of these T2 machine optimizers. I still don't think I realized they needed specific fuses to actually do anything. Then sent the trade rocket off with an order for a cooking station blueprint. There were other new things in the game I really wanted to make, but they all required these different colored quartz I just didn't have yet. You know what? I think I'm overdue for exploring anyway. I teleported over to the waterfall base, grabbed some water for the road, and jetpacked my way to the lava place. It wasn't long before I spotted this blue crate, and would you looky there, it's got one of those fuses in it. I'll take that, thanks. Almost bit the dust next when I walked through this ledge. That's not supposed to happen. Then I went down this ladder next. It led to a very dark underground base that was clearly abandoned, just like all the others. I checked this crate first, but it was a little disappointing. The second level down, though, I found this message. Just like most of the other messages on this planet, it wasn't very hopeful. This lava window sure is cool, though. After checking this not-so-exciting cabinet, I went down to the third floor, where I found an even bigger lava window and an even sadder message. The cabinet had some goodies worth grabbing, and I got some circuit boards too. Then I was prepared to be disappointed by this blue crate when I found 1,000 Terra tokens inside. Well, I wasn't expecting that. Clearly I should be exploring more often. Back at home, I started putting away everything I'd collected and even shredded some stuff to make room in my storage. Then moved one of my machine optimizers over a bit and put in that new production fuse I'd found. I think it will make these extractors and farms produce more, but I'm really not sure. I'd found 2 of the fuses and they were worth 5,000 Terra tokens, so I decided to sell the other one. Combined with the 1,000 tokens I'd found, this was way more than I was making selling fabric and bacteria. I thought about buying something but just couldn't decide and launched the rocket anyway. Now to make that new cooking station I bought. It only needed a circuit board and a super alloy, so I grabbed those and placed it in this nice window area. Ooh, this thing makes much more interesting food than I've been eating. It was day 123 now, which is an interesting number. I spent it going to the lava again, where I made myself a teleporter and continued exploring this giant ship. After wandering around it for a while with my flashlight and gathering more than I could carry, I made my way back to the teleporter. Time to go home. Hopefully, before the end of this, I'll really get to go back home. It's pretty lonely here, except for these drones. For now, though, I'm gonna buy some stuff to make my stay a little nicer. The trade rocket was back with the 5,000 Terra tokens from the production fuse, and I know exactly what I'm gonna spend them on. I ordered a blueprint for an upgraded T5 storage and sent the rocket off again. Then decided to send off another rocket. This new T4 map information rocket. It needed a compass chip, so I accidentally made this map chip first, then realized my mistake and made the right one. Now I just need a rocket engine, a quick drink, 2 super rods, and 2 circuit boards. And blast off! I forgot to try to ride this rocket until it was too far gone and just watched it instead. Then back inside, I checked out my map screen. It had expanded quite a bit, showing the new lava area and some other places I hadn't visited yet. Day 124, I made myself a better pinning chip and remembered to change the day sign that night, then pinned the recipes for 2 more rockets that morning. I grabbed everything I needed for them from inside and launched them both off into the sky. My trade rocket had returned after that with the new T5 storage blueprint, which I was very excited to unlock at the blueprint screen. It only needed super alloy and a circuit board to make, which was easy enough. I made 3 of them to start, then rearranged them because I didn't like the spacing. These look pretty cool for sure, but more excitingly, they hold a bunch of stuff. Look at all that space. So I spent the rest of the evening deconstructing my old storage and making more of the new fancy storage. I rearranged my kitchen the next morning and planted the cocoa and wheat outside so I'd finally have enough to make some of this new chocolate and flour. Then, tired of being at home, I decided to spend the rest of the day out exploring again. I checked out this obsidian cave that eventually led to the purple mushrooms, then went back the way I came and wandered around the lava biome for a bit, before deciding it was possibly nighttime and maybe I should change the day. It wasn't actually, but I don't guess it matters that much at this point. I explored a bit longer in the lava biome, eventually wandering into this very gray area I remembered from before, where I found some more frog eggs, and this very creepy corner. Nope, I don't like the looks of that. Next, I stumbled into this sandy place and found an old iridium cave with an extractor. Oh, I'll take all that, thanks. Pretty sure it is actually night now. Oops. Well, at least I already changed the day. Early on day 126, I found more generic frog eggs by this big portal-looking place. Then I noticed this very large cave entrance that appears to be blocked off with rocks. Guess I'll have to make some explosives and come back for that. With my inventory full, I went home to mutate the frog eggs into better frogs. I made a new amphibian farm for them at the waterfall, but needed more fertilizer to make any more. So I went to grab some from my auto crafter to find it wasn't crafting. Looks like it's out of sulfur. Instead, I ended up just collecting all the stuff and crafting some back at my home base. After that, I was thinking about some lunch, but got interrupted by this superstorm. I collected the alloy and was starting to notice a lot more frogs out in the wild now. My new big storage was full of super alloy, and I set this auto crafter to make some rods from it. It'll save space for now, and I can always recycle them to get the stuff back. On day 127, I crafted a couple more drones and this explosive, then added a bit more light outside for my drone station. Get to work now, drones. After that, I headed off to go test out the explosive. But there was some kind of storm and I couldn't remember where I'd found the cave the day before. Instead, I ran right into another pile of rocks blocking this door. I suppose that will work just as well. I dropped the explosive on top and ran, a little unsure how it worked. Nothing happened though, and I went back to find it had a big red button to press. Okay, let's try that again. Well, it blew up this time, but there's more rocks and I still can't get inside. So I went back home to make more explosives. I might have gotten a bit carried away and ended up adding 2 more auto crafters while I was at it, one specifically for food things. Then made an extra drone before traveling over to make sure the iridium and sulfur extractors were set to upload things. And while I was there, figured I'd see if this place up the vine was like I remembered. After that, I made a bunch of pulsar quartz, which I used to make another generator. Also, I can make croissants and honeybeans now. I could get used to this. Oh yeah, I was supposed to be blowing stuff up. I didn't really find anything new in this wreck until I went down a floor, where I found this very nice blue crate with a big bunch of Terra tokens inside, and another production fuse. Ooh, I'm gonna have to blow up some more stuff soon. I couldn't resist continuing to explore despite the fact my pockets were full, and ended up finding even more tokens and a very interesting room with some plants growing inside. Before I left, I found this door which needed what looks like a key card, and then another of these big power things. Now, if only I could just find my way out of this place. Eventually I did, never realizing that night had passed and I'd missed counting yet another day. Oops. I put everything away and decided to sell the production fuse. Thought about buying something too, but couldn't decide again and didn't get anything. Instead, going for a nice drink. I made my first cookie next and started working again on some more of the fancy T5 storage, clearing out the rest of the old cabinets and replacing them with new ones. I added yet another auto crafter to this room too. I rarely use the crafting station anymore. Instead, I just stuff it all in storage and let the auto crafters do their thing. The new one I set to bioplastic and switched an old one to make this fusion energy cell and one more drone, then did a bit of organizing before heading back to that wreck. I'm pretty sure if I can ever find that big power thing again, I might be able to put this energy cell in it. Several dead ends later, I finally found what I was looking for. As I put the energy cell inside it, I heard what sounded like a door open, but the door I'd found before was still closed. I did find this access card down the hall though. There we go. Inside the room looked different than the rest of the wreck, and it held several of these big vaults full of all sorts of goodies, including more Terra tokens and 2 more of the genetic traits. After that, I found this vault lit up in red in a little room I assume must have opened up when I put in that energy cell, and it had a ton of tokens and more genetic traits too. I couldn't carry anymore and started to make my way back out, but found myself very lost and unable to find my way to the surface. I ran into one more vault while I was searching at least, then started to get a bit claustrophobic. Trying not to panic too much, I slowed down and really had a look around, eventually finding my way back above ground. It was dark on my way home, but I was so distracted by putting away all the stuff I'd found, I couldn't remember if I'd changed the day sign or not. After finding all these genetic traits, I really wanted to unlock mammals soon and got straight to work making more fish, hoping to increase the terraformation more. I also made some more explosives for exploring, and more drones to work for me while I'm out doing more exciting things. You know what else we need? More frogs. I had a new recipe to make my own generic frog eggs now, and then I can mutate those into better frogs. At the slightest hint of darkness this time, I went ahead and changed my calendar. I think at this point I was finally starting to catch on to the fact that I might have missed a day somewhere. I added more storage for food the next morning and rearranged my kitchen a bit, then gathered some stuff and launched 3 more rockets. After that, I added 3 more of these fish farms too, before going to spend some of those Terra tokens I'd been collecting. There was some sort of space gate I could make with energy multiplier fuses, so I ordered a couple of those and a blueprint for a T2 drone. Come back soon, Trade Rocket. On day 131, the space gate needed 2 fusion cells too, so I made those in the morning. Then crafted a compass chip and grabbed these super alloy rods I needed. The rocket still wasn't back though, so I made a few more fish farms too and went to the waterfall to collect all the fertilizer and mutagen from my auto crafters. I thought it was probably too far away for my drones to travel and just picked it up myself every now and then. When I got back, the rocket was back too, and on it was both of my fuses, plus this blueprint chip for a T2 drone. I decoded it first, and then made one real quick and put it to work. Then I couldn't wait any longer. I grabbed everything I needed and teleported over to the wrong place. I meant to go to the waterfall. There's plenty of space there for this portal generator. Once it was built, I opened the console and started scanning for wrecks. Looks like all of these are way out of my league. I still haven't found any of those colored quartz. Maybe I can scan again. Oh, that's more my speed. 3 pulsar quartz I can do. I've got plenty at my main base and looks like it's night anyway. Time to change the day. I grabbed the pulsar quartz I needed and made a few more of the T2 drones while I was there, then packed a lunch before heading back to the waterfall. I'm gonna make a portal. I opened it up with the pulsar quartz and jumped right in. The magical pink tunnels spit me out in an interesting looking place. It was very rocky, but also full of flowers and waterfalls. Oh, and plenty of frogs too. I wasn't really sure what I was looking for, though it said there would be a wreck here. Instead, I found a blue crate with some blue and green quartz inside. Oh, I've been looking for you. There were some Terra tokens too, which was nice, but I know there are some new things I can build with these different colored quartz. I continued searching around, finding blue crates until my inventory was full. Then, just as I was about to go back through the portal, I found my first signs of a wreck. I followed the pieces to this door and ladder. I was completely out of space, but wasn't sure if I could come back to this place, and decided to see what I could find inside. It looked mostly the same as the others, except for this room where I found a blueprint chip for a light box. I wasn't expecting to find new blueprints here, and this had me wondering what else might be out there. I found a couple more crates and traded my inventory around a bit for the good stuff, then found one of those vault rooms with even more tokens and an energy multiplier fuse. With all sorts of goodies, I started trying to find my way back out of the wreck, eventually making it out and back to the portal. I was pretty happy to go back home with my stuff and was greeted by a big pink quartz meteor. Oh, hang on, let me put a few things away. I gathered the quartz that night with a flashlight, then went inside and changed the day sign. Looks like we'll be at the mammal stage in no time. The next morning, I decided to use the energy multiplier fuse instead of selling it, and stuck it inside this T2 optimizer. I noticed you could see the machines it was affecting, but lots of my generators seemed to be out of range, and I spent some time moving them all closer. That's better. After that, I had a look at what I could make with those new colored quartz, finding that I didn't have the yellow one I needed for the genetic extractor, but I did have the stuff for this genetic synthesizer. There we go. It looks like you can put the genetic traits inside to make DNA, but I didn't have the right ones I needed yet. So instead, I went to upgrade more of my butterfly farms. I was getting really close to the mammal stage and wanted to give it a little extra boost. Then I reached it when I was baking cookies later that day. It unlocked this animal shelter and feeder, but I think first I need the DNA. Guess it's just more butterflies for now then. There isn't a name under the next stage, and I can only assume it's the final one, or complete terraformation. Maybe once I reach it, I'll finally be able to leave. For now though, I wanted to find some more genetic traits so I can make some creature DNA. The rest of that wreck I had blown my way into was still waiting to be explored. I'd found a few genetics already there, maybe I'll find some more. Inside, I found a way I hadn't been before, blocked by debris. I cleared it to find some more rocks in the way, but turns out you could just go around. Past them was another of the vaults the fusion reactor had opened. There was yet another path blocked, which ended up being a dead end, then another with an access card. That's cool and all, I just wish I could find a door to stick it in. I wandered around for a while longer before spending even longer lost trying to find the exit. I love mazes on paper, but in 3D they are just not near as fun. Just about the time I was starting to panic, I finally found my way out. I made it home through this awful yellow storm and put everything away. You know what would make me feel better? More butterflies, of course. This shredder's pretty fun too, though. I realized next I could almost build this bigger T6 backpack. I'd already used the one purple quartz I'd found to make the genetic thingamajig, though. So instead, I did a little dance and went to see what was behind this big old tree. It was never there in my first 100 days and must have been added in later. Turns out it just goes straight to my waterfall base. Oh, well that's a lot closer than I realized. Still not as fast as teleporting though. And now it's day 130. Or so I thought. I teleported back to the waterfall the next morning, ready to try out another portal and find more purple quartz. The last one was still open, but I decided to close it and start fresh with a new wreck. I scanned to find one I could open, but it had level 1 rarity and level 5 difficulty. Yeah, no thanks. The next wrecks needed better quartz than I had, but third time's the charm. I found another I could open with only 3 difficulty this time. I opened it up with the 3 pulsar quartz it required and hopped right in. The place looked a lot like the last portal, except this time I found a wreck really fast, with the ladder to enter it underwater. I found myself wishing I had brought some oxygen tanks as I took a big breath and climbed down it, only to find it was nice and dry inside. I mean, I'm not complaining or anything, it'll make it a lot easier on me. I started clearing some debris, found a reactor I didn't have an energy cell for, and a couple access cards. Then it wasn't too long before I found that purple quartz I was looking for. In another crate, I found these legless frog eggs. I thought those were just called tadpoles. While I was exploring, I decided to test out a flare. I'd collected a few and hoped maybe they'd help me not get lost as bad. Eventually, finding a door to use one of the access cards on again with several vaults inside. I loaded up all the stuff, more Terra tokens, fuses, genetic traits, and even a couple explosives, which worked out perfect because just after that I found these rocks. My execution wasn't so perfect though. When I tried to use the explosive, somehow I just deconstructed it instead. Oops. You know what? Maybe I should just go home for the day anyway. First thing back at base, I used the purple crystal to make that T6 backpack. Now I can carry even more goodies to bring back. I put out those legless frogs too. They were slightly creepy looking, but they did have legs after all. I finished out the day building this animal shelter and feeder. Maybe I don't have creature DNA yet, but I'll be ready when I do. I was so excited I even started crafting bugs so I could make some T1 animal food. Into the feeder it went, and then I went back to the portal. This time I was prepared with an energy cell and explosives, ready to explore a bit further. I knew there was more to find in the wreck I'd been in before, but instead I found a different one. I dropped a flare at the entrance to help mark my way. I kept getting lost in these, and I would rather not this time. Then the rest of it was mostly more of the same. Explosions, debris to clear, crates to loot, mysterious abandoned rooms, another keycard door guarding several very rewarding vaults, and this fusion reactor. I put in the energy cell I'd brought with me and started looking for the doors it had opened when I found this wall of water. Somehow I don't think this is supposed to be here. After a quick drink and swim in the water wall, I did find a couple of the doors that had opened up. Then, with my inventory full, I found the flare at the exit and made my way out. While I was in the portal, another night had passed. Time here was tricky. It really hadn't felt like I'd been gone that long, and I didn't even notice. So now it's day 137, even though my calendar still says day 131. I wonder how far off I'll be by the end. I ended up spending most of it rearranging heaters and drills around this optimizer. I'd ordered a heat multiplier fuse and wanted to put it to work. I was eager to get the terraformation going even faster and figured that might be an easy way to improve it. I also placed 5 of these new T5 drills out at the waterfall base. While I was there, another big pink quartz meteor fell from the sky. I went to collect it, but couldn't get through the rubble. I did see these frog eggs instead, though, and another one fell from the sky. Well, don't think I've ever seen 2 of them in a row before. This one landed underwater, and its shiny pink gems only teased me. I couldn't get to them either. 2 pulsar meteors in a row, and I can't get quartz from either of them. I did find a green one in this crate, though. I'll take that, thanks. Uh-oh, it's getting dark now. Better go home and change that calendar. Day 138 was pretty random. I made more frog eggs and 2 new generators. Set up the drones to sell circuit boards, crafted a bunch of energy cells and explosives, had a really close call at the waterfall, and met this really cool frog. Then planted a bunch of flowers, and even took a moment to watch them grow. I ended the day by placing these amphibian farms and ordering more stuff at the trade rocket. I think I'll take 1 pressure multiplier, that smart fabric blueprint, this new living compartment, and maybe throw in a plant fuse too. Please and thank you, Mr. Rocket. See you soon. While I waited for it to return, I packed up a few things and went back through the portal the next day. I wanted to finish exploring this wreck with its entrance underwater and activate its fusion reactor. I hadn't brought any flares and dropped this iron instead to help me not get lost. Then started searching for the doors that the power opened. I searched for a while before finding this room I hadn't been in yet. Back to searching, it took me even longer to finally find one of the open vault doors. It didn't disappoint though and had another genetic trait inside, so I continued searching for more. Instead, I found some rocks to blow up, but I forgot for a moment how to use the explosives, dropping it on the ground instead of right-clicking to use it. I just want to click the big red button, please. Soon enough, I figured it out and exploded both the piles of rock. There were a couple blue crates with tokens behind it and 1 more of the vault doors. I had a lot more with my bigger inventory now, but it still filled up all the same. I'm pretty tired of being down here anyway, though. I think it's time to go home. My trade rocket was back again with the things I'd ordered. I decoded all the new blueprints, then went outside to enjoy the rain for a while. It always sounds so nice and peaceful, way better than the usual meteor storms I get around here. I had some new fuses to place after that and headed to the big T5 drills at the waterfall first, putting down a new T2 optimizer between them all for my new pressure fuse. I did a bit of rearranging with my ecosystems and frog farms for the plant fuse. Now we're talking. As I was placing the frog eggs in, I got another quartz meteor in my backyard. I've actually got plenty of pulsar quartz at this point, but I'll sure take it if you're just giving it away like that. I watched the numbers go up for a while after all my hard work. Oops, almost forgot some frogs. Day 141 was pretty much all just more fish and frog farms. Then, for some reason, on day 142, one of my indoor food growers just disappeared. Huh. Well, I'm pretty sure I've got an extra at the sand base I'm not using anyway. I deconstructed it and then accidentally deconstructed my teleporter when I tried to go back. Okay, let's try that again. When I replaced the missing one though, I used a T2 food grower, not even realizing the old ones were still the T1 version. I really should upgrade these all sometime. Not today though, instead I think I'll make even more fish farms. I spent most of the next morning restocking on obsidian, then thought I'd sell some stuff and order something else from the rocket when yet another quartz meteor started falling. After it landed, I finished up my order at the rocket and gathered all the pink quartz I could reach. and I think I'll upgrade those food growers now. The outdoor farms are way better really, but I just like the looks of these little things. I wanted to explore more that evening and headed over to the portal. I built some storage there to unload things a little easier, then went back inside. I can't remember why, but I must have changed my mind, because after just a little flying around, I went right back out. I flew over to the old meteor hole instead and looked to see if that pulsar quartz was still there. Nope, just this suspiciously pink frog. Well, while I'm here, I wonder what's over by all these new waterfalls. It was really pretty with lots of interesting plants everywhere. I found some frog eggs in a crate, then wandered over into this sandy place. It was pretty too, and I found some frog eggs that I think were new. Then I stumbled upon another wreck. This one must have been added in updates since my first 100 days. I'm pretty sure there was nothing here at all then. Inside the wreck was mostly the same, except for this very cool looking set of spiral stairs. Sure wish I could build some of those. Also, look at these creepy looking coffin things. I found several blue crates, but all of the loot here wasn't that exciting. I ended up just leaving a lot of it. I'm taking this suit though. I finished up my scavenging with the fusion reactor room, then figured I'd come back later with an energy cell. I've got to start remembering to bring those with me. Now it's time to organize some things. That night everything seemed extra dark and I think my floodlight broke, so I made some new lights by the doors. Then sent off 3 rockets that day and managed to send this last seed spreader one right into the lake. My trade rocket was back with the fuse and blueprint I'd ordered too. I stuck the plant fuse in the optimizer by my ecosystems and frog farms, then decoded the blueprint. And now I think I'll go open up a new portal. I used some blue quartz for a higher rarity rack, and this time it took me to a slightly less orange place. I looted a few crates there and then spotted a wreck. In this one I found a very nice new prunea tree I hadn't seen before. Then something else I hadn't seen. Invisible water. It was a bit scary really, just walking along, then next second I'm swimming with my oxygen going down, and since I couldn't really see where the water started and stopped, I was a little worried I might drown. I braved it anyway, finding quite a few goodies, watching my oxygen very carefully. It's just way too easy to get lost in these hallways. They all look the same. Happy to be out of the water, I celebrated by blowing up some rocks, and then found another of these vaults. At this point, my inventory had been full for a while, and I was just trading things out. Maybe it's time to go dump some of this and come back. Of course, I hadn't realized I'd missed a whole nother night and calendar change. Clearly, this place has messed with my brain. I left all the quartz and access cards in the storage at the portal, then couldn't resist immediately putting my new tree in this big tree spreader. Grow little trees grow. Back at base, I put everything away, including these genetic traits. I still don't have the mandatory ones I need to make the creature DNA. I do have a lot of Terra tokens to spend now though, so I ordered 2 more blueprints and sold another production fuse I'd found. I'd like to buy all the things at least once before I leave this place. Later that day, I got a nice surprise, a T4 jetpack blueprint. I wasn't expecting to unlock it and was even more excited to see I already had everything to make it. Woo, look how fast I am now. I teleported back to the waterfall the next morning to find all my new trees had grown, then hopped back into the portal. This time I ended up finding a new wreck to search, which looked a lot like another I'd been in before. I was hoping to find one more color of quartz I needed to make the other genetics machine. I'd found them all except for the yellow solar quartz now. So far though, it was mostly just the same, until I found a door that took 3 of the access cards. I only had 2 with me, but had more back in storage. I marked it with a flare and continued exploring. Fire in the hole. Along with the usual stuff, I found some really good frog eggs in a crate and accidentally dropped another flare, then wandered into an interesting room with a ship inside. It looked pretty cool, but that was about it. After that, I took longer than I'd like to admit finding my way back out and headed home to find it was night. Shoo, that was close. I almost missed another day. I put out these new Jumi frogs the next morning, and they were very cute and sparkly. Then I jumped back into the portal with enough access cards to open that door. Inside, I finally found what I'd been looking for. There was a blueprint here for solar quartz. I wasn't expecting to find a blueprint for it, but that'll do just fine. Then I found the power and turned on the lights. Behind one of the doors it opened, I found another new tree species. I searched a long time for another one, only finding the same one again. Twice. These shipwrecks might be making me a little crazy. I eventually found a new way past some debris and down the stairs, and there was a vault with a new trade rocket fuse inside. Ooh. After finding one more vault, I made my way home and was starting to wonder if I'd missed a day. Does the sky look a little dark to you? I debated but didn't change the day, thinking maybe it was about to turn night now. Instead, I started putting things away, decoded the exciting new blueprints I'd found, and made another optimizer for that tray rocket fuse. It says it increases the speed of the rocket, so now I can buy and sell things a little faster. I went straight to see what I needed for the solar quartz next, and it was a lot easier than I'd expect. Nitrogen, sulfur, and obsidian. I already had everything I needed and simply set my autocrafter to make them. Then my drones to carry it to storage. And now I can make this genetic extractor. It was really cool looking, and I opened it up to find you can extract the genetic traits I needed for the DNA from all these things. I needed color A and B, which looks like you can get from butterfly larvae and flowers. Well, that's easy enough. I grabbed some extra ones I had laying around and put them in the extractor. It quickly gave me back 5 genetic traits in return. I did another 5 too, just for fun, then took all the traits I had to the DNA manipulator. You have to fill in the first 3 slots with species, color A and color B, but the rest are optional. I figured it was still good to fill them all up though, and went back to extract some more traits, specifically a skin pattern color. And just like that, I had my first creature DNA. I had plenty of traits and started working on another when what was clearly a super alloy storm hit. I finished the second DNA while it was at it and put it all away for now. I can't say no to some free super alloy. It turned night as I gathered the last of it and headed inside to change the calendar. I debated for a moment if I had actually missed a day, then changed it again. The next morning, my trade rocket was back again with more blueprints to decode, and this time I actually made one of them. I just couldn't wait to test out this hologram projector to see how it worked. I stuck one out back on my roof and tested it with a rocket engine inside. It looked pretty cool, but then I wondered if you could put anything in it and traded it for a cookie. Perfect. Done with distractions for now, it's time to get back to that creature DNA. I grabbed it and headed over to the waterfall where I'd placed the animal shelter, then stuck it inside. Aw, it's kinda cute, isn't it? I put in the second DNA next and almost couldn't see the creature at first, but it's even cuter than the other one. Look at its little tail. I was excited to make more and extracted the DNA of several more flowers before starting on my 3rd and 4th creatures. There was a crazy purple storm happening when I took them over to the animal shelter, but I was too impatient to wait. Let's see what we get this time. Look, it's a land shark. It's like if a caterpillar and a hammerhead had a baby. Definitely not what I was expecting, but cool nonetheless. The next one was just like the first deer-looking creature, which is species number 3. The cute little monkey-looking one was species number 2, and the land shark, species 1. Now, I just want to make all these little cuties. My animal shelter only holds 5 though, so I made one more land shark, this one with spots, and then just looked at them all for a while. I checked their food and they hadn't eaten any yet. Then I think I might have stepped on this one and it hissed at me. Sorry, excuse me. I petted this first one I made and got a genetic trait in return, then realized I could pet them all for one. Well, that's fun. With all the excitement from the mammals, I'd almost forgotten about that new tree I'd found. You get in there and grow now. Halfway through this 100 days, and I didn't even know it yet, I ate a quick breakfast and headed over to this biome with all the waterfalls that was new. It was all just empty desert here the last time I played, but now it's this beautiful place. I was curious if there was anything behind the waterfalls and only found disappointment behind this one. The next one, though, had 2 paths behind it. On the right, a cave full of resources, including ice, which I hadn't seen in a long time, and a few blue crates that really just weren't all that great. Then, on the left, a pile of rocks I'll have to blow up. I didn't think to bring any explosives, though, so I moved on to the next waterfall for now, which was pretty disappointing. A bit further down, though, I found this glowing purple cave. Looks like it's magnetar quartz inside. Pretty excited about this, I felt like I'd won the jackpot at the time. Little did I know, just around the corner was something even better. After filling my pockets, I continued exploring, peeking down over this river when I spotted a yellow glow this time. When I went to check it out, I noticed even more colored caves. Into the yellow one first, I found it was actually the green quasar quartz, and my Steam informed me I'd just discovered the rainbow caves. Where have you been all my life, Rainbow Caves? The whole time I've been searching wrecks for these quartz, and this has just been sitting here all along. I found blue blazar quartz and more pink pulsar quartz next. Then, after a bit of searching, I finally found the yellow solar quartz. I might just move here. I love this place. As I left the caves, another interesting place came into view. I was all out of space though, and just had a quick look. Then ate a cookie, which gives you a little speed boost, and flew back home. My quartz storage was all full now, so I thought I'd take some solar quartz to build one of these light boxes. I'd intended to make more, but decided I really just didn't like it. I did put one on the roof just because, and then used some pulsar quartz making these energy cells instead. I guess I really should just make more storage. With all the drones working so hard, I've really got too much of everything. I spent the night replacing the rest of the cabinet storage with the much fancier ones. So distracted and into building, I forgot yet again to change the day. I ran out of zeolite for more circuit boards later that morning though, and headed off to the cave up on the hill to see what the problem was. Turns out both my osmium and zeolite extractors were backed up with random ores, and since my storage was full, the drones didn't have anywhere to take it. I spotted a couple more of these pretty Treju frogs too, then headed back to base to grab a few things. We're gonna fix this problem for good. After picking up everything I needed, I headed back to the cave to replace the old extractors with the newer T3 version. It may have smaller storage, but it only collects the specific ore you choose, and can't get backed up with the more common ore. While I was at it, I figured I'd switch over my aluminum one too, and now I have to wait for more zeolite to be mined. In the meantime though, I decided I wanted to build a whole new base over at the Rainbow Cave place. Not sure where to build, I wandered around for a while, eventually deciding on this fairly flat place by this little pond and waterfall. I placed a teleporter for easy travel and got to work starting with these foundations. I probably should have paid attention to this little pop-up at the bottom. It would have made my job a lot easier. They've added the ability to build multiple things without going back to the build menu. But who needs that? I'm old school. Just like my calendar. I spent the next morning gathering iron and continuing the new construction, finishing up the foundation and adding these new living compartments I bought from the rocket. They're frustrating to place, to say the least. Eventually, I had a little stack of them with windows all around. Guess that will do for now. With zeolite back in stock, I could make more circuit boards now to finish my storage at home. Then I rearranged the genetics machines too. Doesn't it all look so fancy? Almost as fancy as these frogs. I made 2 new creature DNA too, even though I didn't have anywhere to put them yet, and made another order at the rocket. This time, for a dome I want to put on my new building, a new tree seed, and this butterfly larva. Go rocket go! To top the day off, I added this uranium extractor too for my drones to collect from, and spent the night reorganizing. Day 153 started with a big pink meteor. I had so much pulsar quartz though, I didn't even collect it. Then I headed back over to the little tower I'd been working on. You know what? I think it's time for a building montage. By the end of it, there was still a lot of work left to do, but I think I'll call it a day for now. I'm hungry, and look, my rocket's back with new stuff. I put out the butterfly first, decoded the building blueprint, and then traded the new tree for an old one. After that, I realized I should probably go check on my animals. They were all still there, but their hunger was at 0 and the feeder was empty, so I rushed over to grab some extra I had in storage. As soon as I put it in, it disappeared. So I set the feeder to demand food from the drones and then headed back home. I made them some more of the T1 food until I ran out of beans due to another storage backup. I've got way too many eggplants. I unlocked this T2 food and made some of it too, then decided that was enough for now. I wanted to do more building. I didn't do too much, just placed a few fun things before heading back over to check on the animals again. I swear they've grown since I was here last and all the food was already gone. Turns out the drones had never picked up the T2 food. I set it to supply all again and that seemed to fix it, with all the drones coming to get it. Woo! You know what? More drones might be nice. Get to work, little robots. I had a small fit that night about not being able to sleep again, then went back to the tower to relax with some more decorating and building. Most of it was finished by the end of the day, and instead of making this into a new base, I decided I wanted to turn it into a museum of sorts. I mean, gotta catch 'em all, right? Maybe I can manage to find all the different species before the end of this thing. It was dark and I zapped back home next. Surely I was rushing back to change the day, right? No, I've clearly got a project on the brain, and instead I grabbed this stuff I needed and zapped right back to continue working on these fish plaques. Oh yeah, I've got another plaque already at home. Wait, did I change the calendar? No, I don't think I did. No, surely I did. Back to work. Maybe actually I didn't. At this point, I was definitely aware I'd missed a couple days. I just had no idea quite how many. I worked on a bit more animal food that day. The larva it required was making it a bit tricky to automate. Then I grabbed some tree bark and headed back to the tower. I put up a few more fish plaques there and went back home to incubate some more fish eggs for them. And as soon as it started to turn dark this time, I went to change the day. Careful not to miss it. I was feeling pretty sure that the planet was on its way to the next stage with or without my help at this point, and focused my attention on collecting all the things for the new museum. I finished up with a few more species the next morning. After placing them on the plaques, I took a quick drink break at the fountain and started working on butterfly displays for the rest of the day. As night fell, I went home to change the calendar. How cute! I thought it was day 150. I continued with the butterflies a bit the next morning, trying to get one of each in at the museum. Sorry, extra butterflies, I'm all out of space. Then I picked up my water life collector at the lake and started looking for somewhere with new fish to catch. I didn't find any fish in any of the water I checked, but I did find a cave with a couple of crates and a path blocked by some rocks. I continued searching water holes the rest of the day and never saw a single fish at all. Guess I'll try again in the morning. I had better luck looking behind the waterfall, where I found fish first thing. I figured it would probably just give me the same eggs I'd been getting from in front of the waterfall though, and went a little further to this ocean-looking area. Surely I'll be able to catch something new here. Well, I definitely won't if I put out the fish farm instead of the life collector. Oops, let's try that again. It was back to butterflies after that, and then I spent the rest of the day starting a frog exhibit on the second floor. It took me a minute to decide how I wanted to place everything, but eventually I got it figured out. Day 160, I started by collecting some common larvae from the ground to make more animal food. I could craft them too, but the easiest way was just to walk around and collect them off the ground. I put them in storage for the auto-crafters to use, and then the drones just deliver the food. Off to the museum next, I added one more butterfly species and more frog stands. I decided to do these suit displays on the third level. Oh yeah, I brought a couple frog eggs too this time. After putting everything away, I decided I needed a new animal shelter out by the museum, and spent the evening making a new creature DNA to put in it. I guess maybe I should make sure these guys aren't starving first, though. Turns out they had grown even more and were still out of food. Luckily, I found a bunch of common larvae I'd forgotten about in my base there, and took it home to make some more. Good night. Well, that's what I'd say if I could sleep in this game anyway. I put more frogs in the museum before the sun came back, then chilled in this fountain before going to put out those new creatures. Another little monkey-looking thing, a deer, and this land shark. I added a bunch of light sticks at the museum next before heading back home to grab a snack and some explosives. I've got some rocks to blow up. The blockage behind this waterfall ended up taking 2 booms and opened up a door that needed not just 1 but 5 access cards. I had collected a few I hadn't used, so I went back home to grab them. The door opened to a cave with an abandoned base of someone's. First, a couple square rooms, and then this dome full of debris. There was a message in it, something about building a departure platform. Maybe they finished it. As I explored, I was pretty sure it was night now, though it could just be this place. Inside the next building, I found more spacesuits, some random genetic traits, and another message. This one a bit less hopeful. Back outside the building, I noticed that the sky definitely wasn't night now, so it wasn't just this place. I gotta get back home and change the day. I knew there was more there to explore, but got distracted the next day with the animals.
It's so big.
The ones at the waterfall were still out of food. I went home and made some more, then hand-delivered it myself instead of letting the drones take it. I also noticed at this point the animals only give you genetic traits if they aren't starving when you pet them. After that, I collected some larvae to make even more animal food. I put 2 more critters out at the museum animal shelter. It was full now, so I made another one. Go, Spot, go. I finally got back to that abandoned base early the next day to see what else I could find. I'd upgraded my torch chip and it lit these sparkly little Jumi frogs right up. Then I found an energy multiplier fuse I'd missed and this room with a rocket platform and message inside. Looks like they did manage to make their departure platform. Wonder if they made it home. In the crate beside the monitor was a new red tree I hadn't seen before, with a 1200% multiplier. Well, thanks for that. I put out the new tree to grow next, then went back to the museum. I had new suits to put out and this frog. I could put out more species, but I was leaving a few of the better ones in their farms to keep the planet progressing. Oh yeah, I almost forgot about this energy fuse I found. I finished the evening working on the top floor of the museum. I think it might be my favorite when it's done. As usual, my building activities distracted me, and I forgot to change the calendar again. But I finished up the last 2 flowers the next morning, all in order of their multipliers. I don't normally look up anything about the games I play, but I did look up the number of species so I'd know if I was missing any. There are 8 different plant seeds, and I already have them all. I checked the others too. Looks like 18 butterfly, 13 fish, and 14 frogs. I'll have to start checking all my farms to see which ones I'm missing. For now though, I think I'll move my trophies here. Maybe I'll be able to fill up these shelves before the end. I started checking the frog farms first, where I grabbed these legless and lavum eggs I didn't have at the museum yet. Looks like I've got 8 of the 14 so far. After that, I gathered some materials to finish out these lights on the top floor. This place looks pretty cool at night. Now you know what we need? Even more light. I didn't change the calendar until the next morning, but at least I changed it this time. It's just so easy to lose track here. I took some food to the animals at the museum that day. They were so hungry it just disappeared as soon as I put it in again. Then I made this storage to dump stuff in for my drones to sort and deliver at my main base, before going to check on the animals at the waterfall. I really didn't expect them to get this big. The rest of the day, I searched through frog farms to see if I was missing any species in the exhibit, just this one sparkly Jumi frog. Despite taking out some of my better frogs, my terraforming still seemed to be going fine, so I started searching for butterflies next. My golden butterflies were right here, close to my main base, and I decided to leave them for now. Then I got distracted, making another creature instead. Hey there, Spot, I brought you a friend. Animal food was still a problem though, and when this pulsar meteor landed, I think I was more excited about the larvae I gathered on the way. I finished the day ordering a tree at the trade rocket, then sent it off with a couple of production fuses to sell. I collected a few more larvae that morning, then managed to get 2 more frog species from the incubators. I quite like this red Strabos one. Now, just 3 more to go. I watched the numbers on my screens go up for a bit next, thinking I was doing quite well, considering it was only day 158. Yeah, it wasn't. It was a boring day mostly. I checked on my animals in this purple storm, and ended up gathering more cobalt to add even more lighting at the museum tower. I remembered the trade rocket was probably back the next morning with my new tree and some tokens, enough to order some new fish and frog eggs this time. I traded the new tree in for this old mushroom tree, then grabbed some food for the road. With all these quartz I've found, it's about time I try one of the more rare wrecks. I scanned several times before finding one I liked the looks of, and off through the pink portal I go. I found several crates out in the open first before heading inside a wreck using my flare tactic again to help me find my way. It was all more of the same, really. Tokens, an access card, lots of debris, and more quartz. I did find an access card room, but the vaults just held more of the same. The fusion reactor was nearby too. I just forgot to bring the energy cell for it. Dang. I explored a bit more, but my storage was full, so I decided to head back for that energy cell I needed anyway. If only I could find my way out of this stupid place. I couldn't help myself and made one more creature DNA early on day 169. Look, it's Spot Jr. Then the rocket was back again with my fish and frog eggs this time. They had pretty high multipliers, so I put them into farms for now. I don't get any boost at all from putting them on the plaques, only a little satisfaction. I made a quick trip back through the portal again that day, taking the energy cell I needed this time and managing to find a couple of the doors it opened. These places make me a little motion sick and claustrophobic though, so I didn't stay very long. I pet some of my animals for a few more traits while I was there. You're so cute. Before heading back home to order this new spacesuit from the trade rocket. After that, I decided I wanted to try to use the light boxes somewhere again and ended up placing a row of them in front of the museum. I'm not sure if I like them or not, but I guess I'll leave them for now. Then I went to explore the rainbow caves again. Found more blue crates and this mysterious opening in the ceiling. It was a bit tricky to get to, probably because I don't think you're supposed to. Oops. A little nervous I'd fall through the world into oblivion, I didn't stay too long and turned around. As I made my way back out, it was night and I found one more crate under this waterfall before yet another giant pink meteor fell. This one looked like it hit the mountain, but as I flew towards it, I realized it had actually landed in the sky. I didn't want your quartz anyway. My inventory was almost full already, but I had some explosives on me and blew into this place the next day. It looked like a lot to explore. I think maybe I'll run home real quick to dump all my stuff first. Oh look, the trade rocket's back with my new suit. And better not forget to change the calendar. I hit another terraformation milestone. It's a shame it didn't happen yesterday though.
Oh, I missed it. I wasn't paying attention.
Meanwhile, I still thought it was day 161. Look at all my little drones working.
Beans, 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 beans.
Come on, larva.
More lava.
Look, I got a new spacesuit, guys.
Hoppa. Oh, I love this one. This is my new favorite. Boop, boop. Come here.
I started work on making trees to fill up the tree pots on day 171. I'd always tried to make the ones with higher multipliers, but now I want them all. Then the next suit from the trade rocket came in, and I think it's my new favorite.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Guess I should probably go finish exploring that wreck now, though. Don't get me wrong, I like the wrecks. You never know what you'll find in the next crate or behind the next door. But at this point, I wasn't finding anything new except the occasional genetic trait, but the Terra tokens were pretty nice at least. I really can't complain. I still found all sorts of goodies. And I love the addition of being able to power up the generator when I remember to bring the energy cells anyway. Explosions and keycard doors are also nice. Mostly, I think I'm just tired of getting lost. Back home, I sold a couple of production fuses I'd found and ordered some pressure multiplying ones. Then I had so much pulsar quartz and super alloy, I built 2 more fusion generators just for fun. And before calling it a night, I used some of the traits to make another creature DNA. I took it over to the museum animal shelter the next morning. The creatures there were all hungry, but I put the new one in anyway. It had a trait for bioluminescence 10 and was absolutely glowing with its lightning colored stripes, unlike these light blocks which just weren't even glowing at all anymore. I worked on more trees for a bit and checked for frogs and butterflies I might have missed. Then, after a meteor tried to smash my launch platform, I drifted over to this old wreck nearby. I'd searched it long ago, but a lot has changed since then. Found some spacesuits that weren't here before, but no fusion reactor to activate, just these circuit boards to collect. I ended up selling the circuit boards along with a bunch of extra pulsar quartz. At this point, I think I'd already bought at least one of everything, so instead I used my extra tokens to order seconds of the fish, frog, butterfly, and tree seed to put in my museum. My pressure fuses had come in too, and I popped them in the optimizer by the giant drills. Next, I wanted to put out the spacesuits I'd found. There were so many I couldn't remember if I had these or not. Turns out I already had the Sipto suit, but not this almost solid white Sipho one. Very nice. I finished the day with one more old wreck. Just like the other, there wasn't much new here, except this closet with spacesuits. Pretty sure I already have all of these. Guess I'll throw them in the junk box. With all the new animals and fuses, the terraformation was going faster than ever, and I didn't feel any rush at all to add any more machines. I really just wanted to find the rest of the species for my museum and see if there were any other animal types to find. This bubblegum mutated monkey is nice and all, but something new sure would be fun. I do think there are a couple new rockets I haven't used yet. First, this crazy-looking drone rocket, then these fish in the animal spreader rocket. Have a nice trip, guys. You frogs are lucky I don't have an amphibian rocket to send. I picked up my stuff I'd ordered next and took it all to the museum. The Rosia tree, Velkia fish, the Kinjas frog, and the Filaria butterfly. I don't know if I pronounced any of those right, but I gave it a try. Then, hoping to get something new, I chucked some random stuff in the incubators that night. Then, crossing my fingers for something new, I chucked some random things in the incubator that night. I checked the map after that, wanting to check out the new drone overview. Look at my little workers. Back at my incubators, I think I did get a new frog. I took the eggs to the museum only to find I was out of stands to place them on. BRB. There we go. I put the new frog in its spot, trying to get them in the order of their multipliers. Now it looks like I've just got one more frog species left. I collected some solar quartz next to finish this row of light blocks, but they seemed to get their colors messed up after a while, and I decided I didn't like them anymore. The rest of my day, I went to explore more old wrecks, starting with this big one in the sand. I went up through this window first and found a genetic trait in a cabinet there. Then climbed back down this new vine to go through the main entrance. Inside, I grabbed these free circuit boards and found plenty of old blue crates full of junk I'd left. I can activate this reactor now at least. It opened a couple of doors, including this one that held a vault full of Terra tokens and 2 fuses. Ooh, very nice. I made a quick trip home after that to dump my inventory, then went back to see what else I might find. There was more junk I'd left from my first 100 days, and a closet of suits. I'm not sure if I've got this one or not. I found some seeds I didn't need, and more circuit boards to sell. Then eventually another door that had opened. It was all boring stuff though, and I went home for a drink instead. Now it's off to bed. Nope. Just kidding, I haven't slept for days. Instead, I hung out with the butterflies and checked on the animals. I found myself a little frustrated that this little bubblegum monkey with bioluminescence 10 wasn't glowing. Guess I should probably feed them anyway though. Then got rid of even more of the light boxes. I just really don't like them. I visited the animals again. Now that they weren't starving, I can get more traits by petting them. Until my inventory was full anyway, and this one just fell on the ground. Oops. Then I took all the traits I'd gathered and made more creatures that night. I didn't even use the new DNA I'd made the next day. Instead, I went up on the hill to check yet another old wreck. A lot of things have been added since I played this game for the first 100 days, like these energy cells. So I popped one in the reactor here and checked for open doors. These would have been really useful earlier in my game, but only the occasional genetic trait was kinda nice now. Even the Terra tokens, now that I've already bought everything. I do think I want an extra one of those pink spacesuits for myself though. I think I'll order a second one. I noticed I was getting a lot closer to the next stage as I changed the calendar that night, but I still wanted to find all the rest of the species before I was done. I wasn't sure where to look for the last few I needed and set off to check the old warden locations. I'd already opened them with keys long ago. There weren't any fish or frogs here then, though. I couldn't remember which one was which, but I sorta remembered where they were. This first one held nothing new, just this big old sandy city and a message I'd already read. The next one I checked was in the mushroom biome by the waterfall. It was even less exciting, really. 2 old messages and this ship that were all here last time. I wasn't really sure where the third one was, so I explored a bit randomly after that, finding some crates in the lava, then following the beach to this new waterfall-y place. Just as I was starting to feel like I wasn't going to find anything, I got another trade rocket speed multiplier. Then found this bit of a wreckage with a suit inside. This place wasn't here in my first 100 days, so I was really hoping to find something interesting behind one of the many waterfalls. Instead, I found it in this hole. At the top of the hole was a crate with a new species type. Then, down in the hole behind the waterfall was an underwater cave with something I hadn't seen in a very long time. A golden crate. And even more exciting, a new statue inside. The water continued on the other side, leading to another hole, this one completely underwater. There was another crate here too, not a very exciting one. I think I'll just go dive in the hole. I was nervous, of course, about my oxygen. Breathable atmosphere or not, you still can't breathe underwater. I found an old base with more of the normal junk inside, a message from some other poor planet crafter, and then started swimming up, hoping for an air pocket here. Yeah, there's not. I quickly swam back down and out the way I came, making it back to air just in time. The next morning, I put away everything I'd collected, and when I went to put the trade rocket fuse in, the rocket was back with my new suit and a plant fuse too. I was pretty excited about the new outfit and loaded in the plant fuse. Then I was really excited about this drone statue. Look at you. I'd also found another new suit the day before and fixed a spot for it in the museum. You know, I think every new one is my favorite now. I added an extra stand too, just for the basic suit. There was one more suit to find to finish the 15 that are in the game. I just never found it. I put one more tree and then went back home to make some creature DNA with that new species number 4. Somehow I actually had 2 of them. I think maybe the second one I picked up by petting my animals. All of my animal shelters were full though, so I made a new one near my main base. I added a feeder for them too and then loaded up the shelter with creature DNA. I had 3 I made a while back, and then the new species type 4, which looks a bit like a beetle of some sort. Not gonna lie, I was a little disappointed with this one. But we're getting close to the next stage, so I spent the rest of the day doing random things, then running back inside to check the terraformation screen. Since I couldn't use it anyway, I traded my bed for a new couch I made with this smart fabric. Look, I can actually sit on it at least. Then after that, it was time to celebrate. I might have been a little confused on what day it was, but I'd finally fully terraformed the planet and unlocked the extraction platform to leave. Heck, it's not even that hard to make. I already have all that stuff. Then a message showed up after that with a very interesting new blueprint. The message was from Sentinel Corp, of course, the people who sent me here. It instructed me to destroy some sort of anomaly that prevents them from colonizing the planet. Guess I'll have to blow up something big this time. I gathered the stuff for the extraction platform anyway and took it all to the waterfall. It wasn't quite as crowded there and I placed it behind my portal. Then when I climbed up to check out the console, I got this message. Oh, a new set of coordinates to find. Well, that sounds fun and all, but I've got a museum to finish first. So I flew over to pick up this special blue tree and took it to the museum to put in a tree pot. I ended up distracted for a bit, exploring this very green place I hadn't been to much. Along its edge was another wreck, blocked up by rocks. I'll be back with explosives. Oh yeah, I was supposed to be finishing the museum. With the terraformation done, it doesn't matter what trees I have out, so I took all my good ones from their tree spreaders and put them in the pots at the museum instead. I added some extra light outside the next day before moving on to the butterflies. The golden butterfly, of course, is the best, but I had these 2 pretty ones too. Then put up this golden fish. There are supposedly 13 types of fish and 19 butterflies, so I'm still missing a few. I just don't know what they are or where to find them yet. I had a look at the map and decided I'd do some exploring, starting first with that rock pile I'd found yesterday. Inside was the usual wreck. I powered up the reactor, found some random stuff, and even blew something up. But at this point, I had plenty of everything I found and was just hoping to find some interesting mystery I might have missed, and this just wasn't it. On day 181, I launched this animal rocket for no reason at all, really. I actually think I'd just forgotten I'd already launched one. Well, I have for sure now. I double-checked that I hadn't missed any butterflies in my farms again, and after a quick dance break, decided to decorate the top of the museum tower that day. Might as well add a nice sign here too. At least I don't have to change this one. I'd also found this fireplace blueprint in the wreck the day before. Guess I should probably decode it so I can build one. I went back the next morning and continued decorating the top floor, adding that new fireplace, then ended up finding the last of the old warden cities I'd visited in my first 100 days. I'd hoped that maybe there'd be something new here, but it was just all the same. I finally remembered on day 183 that I'd never finished exploring that big water hole. I should probably have brought an oxygen tank, but I didn't. After debating on going back to get one, I dove in anyway. What's the worst that could happen? I swam right through the old base this time and onto this strange glowing place. Inside was lots of bright blue osmium and another stone tablet from the warden. I didn't linger long, my oxygen was dropping fast, but I was pretty sure there would be air at the end of this tunnel somewhere. Just a bit of swimming further, I spotted these stairs and up ahead, the ripple of the surface. Cutting it close, I made it just in time and then headed up the stairs. This place looked to be another of the warden's secrets and the most interesting message from them yet. I thought they must be long gone, but according to this message, if I can find 10 more keys, I could join them. Well, that's tempting. In the box next to it, I found a blueprint for a warden key detector, then continued looking around and found another message. Curiosity about the wardens was really getting the best of me, or maybe this place is just making me a little crazy. Then I found something I'd been searching for. The last species of frog. The golden one. There were 2 sets of eggs, but nothing else that I could see. I left the place pretty happy, with a new goal of finding 10 more warden keys. It looked suspiciously dark outside. Had I missed another night down there? I don't know, but I got distracted by this obvious cave I'd missed under another waterfall. There was a rock wall blocking the way. I know just what to do about that. Past it was a very pretty osmium cave with a mysteriously empty crate inside. Have I been here before? I took a look around, but the only other entrances were blocked by rocks too. I had one more explosive and chose to try this set of rocks. It only led back outside. Well, darn. When I came out, it was the next day for sure, and I headed back to base. I was so excited about this warden's key detector, I completely forgot to change the day. Big surprise. I made the key detector chip and equipped it, though I'm not sure how it works, then put one set of the golden frog eggs in an amphibian farm out front. I took the other set to the museum, of course, and put them in the very last slot, moving the red and blue kinjoss over to this spot. After that, I had noticed an interesting looking place on my map. I think before I thought this was just part of the lava biome, but when I really started looking at its location, it clearly was not. I followed the edge of the wall there, looking behind the waterfalls and in caves for a possible entrance, eventually flying down into the canyon and following its wall to find this cave. At first, I thought it was an iridium cave, all red and glowy, but there was no iridium, and then I spotted this tunnel blocked with rocks. Well prepared, I had come with explosives. It was an iridium cave behind it. That wasn't all. I followed the tunnel to find this crazy looking place. I couldn't resist a quick drink of the Kool-Aid first, then made my way up into this ship. It was mostly more of the same. Found this spacesuit at the end I think is new, but it was so dark in here I couldn't even see it when I tried it on. There was another area further on with some waterfalls and another smaller rack. All of its crates were just jammed in the back. And I was excited to find more of these red tree seeds. I also found 2 sets of the black legless frogs here, and noticed a black butterfly I hadn't seen before. I didn't see any larvae on the ground though, and blew up some more rocks next, finding a giant entrance to this place right behind the space gate. I think I saw this from the other side before and forgot about it. I went back in to make sure I hadn't missed anything inside. I was hoping to find another genetic trait with a new species type, but instead found this golden crate hiding under a waterfall. Inside it was a nice new golden statue of a fuse. Ooh. It started to look a little darker, and I realized it was night and I should go change the calendar. I just didn't want to leave. What if I was missing something? This seems like such a crazy place, surely there's more. After staying through lunch, I didn't find anything else and finally headed home. Nah, just kidding. I actually just spent the rest of the day flying around various edges of the map to see if I'd missed some other mysterious place. No need to go change the day. I didn't really find anything except another butterfly I hadn't seen before. Guess I'll go back to base now. I put out the extra red trees I'd found, then went to the museum. The suit I'd found was new after all, and I was so excited about the fuse statue I got a bit distracted. Shh, let's just pretend that didn't happen. Later that night, when it was time to change the calendar again, I changed it 2 days. Doubting myself for a minute, I changed it back, then changed it again. I was pretty sure I'd missed a day, but didn't want to get it wrong the other way. If only I'd known how far I was really off. Something about time in a place like this, all alone, no watch or clock to check. Time just feels different. An hour seems like 10 minutes, and before you know it, it's been a whole 2 days. Either way, I was running out of time here, and before the end of the game, there was one more Steam achievement I wanted to get. I'd taken lava damage before, but I guess you have to go for a full-on swim to get the achievement. After that, I was trying to figure out how this warden key detector thing worked, and explored around the underground mushroom biome. I didn't have any luck and went AFK for a moment to come back and find not one, but 2 of these glowing pink butterfly larvae. Well, that's not what I came for, but I'll take it. I took it straight to the museum, pretty excited about my find. At this point, I had given up finding any new butterfly larvae on the ground, so this was a nice surprise. With this new discovery, I decided I'd go try it in some other places, starting with the spacey place. I waited and then looked around, only finding the usual lava, then moved on to the wasteland where I'd seen the gray butterflies. After a bit of waiting, I turned around to find a new black larva to pick up. Straight to the museum with you. Better make some more displays first though, and I guess it's about time I put them all in the right order. There we go. On my way the next morning to check a water life collector I'd forgotten about, I spotted something very shiny out of the corner of my eye. This golden altar appeared out of nowhere with a warden's key inside. Let's go! I wasn't anywhere special really, just out in the open. Now just 9 more to go. I continued on to check for fish eggs in this collector I'd forgotten about in the ocean, and it did have a new Galbia fish egg. Ooh! Following the coast, I went back to that osmium cave under the waterfall next. There was another rock block to blow up, and I wanted to see what was behind it. It only led to the same underwater tunnel I'd found before under this bigger waterfall. That's okay though, it let me out right at the big crater. I wonder if there's a hidden key there. Sure enough, the shining golden glow appeared, and now I've got 2 of the warden keys. I hadn't really decided for sure if I wanted to go with the wardens, but I wanted to find all the keys at least. I put the new fish out in a farm and in the museum. Then maybe we can just not talk about the fact I missed changing the calendar again. I blew through one more rock wall on day 189 and wasn't surprised to find it led to this red place again. Oh yeah, I didn't mind, this place just looked so cool. And when I spotted these butterfly again, I wondered if I could get a new larva here. It didn't take long and I found this little lorpin larva on the ground. So I took it straight back to the museum to finish my collection. Look how pretty. And yeah, I realized in editing that it's actually supposed to be 19 butterflies. Too late now though. Sorry, you get 18. If only I could find another statue and figure out which fish I was missing. I checked another water life collector and then loaded up the incubators again, hoping for something new, and spent the rest of the day out searching for more of the warden keys. After finding one late that night, I came home to find fish ready in the incubators, but none of them were new. So I tried again, and then got back to hunting more keys while I waited. Eventually, I found another one in this dusty place, and then happened upon another gold crate with a statue inside. Hang on a second, I think I forgot to change the day. The fish were ready too, and I think I might have finally got one that was new. Back to the tower. I put in the statues first, filling up my 2 shelves. I have no idea how many statues you can find, but I'm happy with filling up these 2 shelves. Then I put this new villainous fish in its spot. Just one of 13 left to go. Maybe I can catch one at the water in this crater or the big waterfall hole. Better get back home now. Sure would hate to miss changing the day. I spent most of day 191 flying around looking for shiny things. I did manage to find one more warden key by this big shipwreck in the sand. No luck anywhere else. So I went back to check the new water life collectors. The waterfall one just had plankton, but the one at the meteor had some tageed eggs inside. I have no idea if I pronounced it right, but I'm pretty sure I haven't found them before and took them back to the museum. I needed one more plaque. I think I'll put it here. No, maybe a bit lower. Or over here? No, there. Perfect. I decided to put the highest multiplier, golden fish, on the bottom plaque, then added the new fish in order. Look at me, all 13 fish species. With my museum project mostly finished, I set my sights on finding the rest of the warden keys the next day. They'd all been out in the open so far, so I made myself a cookie for breakfast and headed off with a bit of extra speed to search for them. It wasn't long before I found this one in the lava biome. Then it took me most of the day before I found another one in the sand behind the waterfall. And just after that, one more on this little island nearby. I took them back to find I had 8 of them now, only 2 more to go. It didn't take me too long to find the 9th one the next morning. The 10th took a bit longer. I wandered around for a while, then in the canyon I decided to climb this vine. And there it was, the last warden key. I put them all together. I didn't really know what to do with them next. I checked the message about them and all it said was to place them in an extraction capsule, which I assumed was in some special extraction thing of the wardens. Guess I could look for it too while I'm looking for the anomaly that Sentinel Corp wants me to explode. I checked the coordinates at my extraction platform, then headed off to try and follow them. I'm not really great with coordinates, and after trying to get the numbers close, I ended up at this wall. I tried to see if there was a way around and went to check in this old warden city with the golden butterflies again. Eventually, I decided there was nothing here to find and made my way back home for the night. I walked around the next morning and thought about what to do next. Well, I do have a giant explosive I need to make. As I started gathering things, I realized I didn't even have the explosive packets I needed for it, which sent me on a whole day's worth of distractions. I didn't have iridium to make them, so I went to the cave and found the extractor clogged with junk, then used some of the junk to make these lights. I needed sulfur too, but was surprised to find my automation station underwater for some reason. Oh, and the sulfur ore extractor was clogged too. I don't know why I never upgraded them to T3, guess it's better now than never. Now I'll just have to let them do their thing before I can make the giant explosive. Back to coordinate hunting, I guess. Somehow, I don't think this is it. It wasn't in this cave under the sand wall I checked the next morning either. I did find one more golden crate with a statue in it as a nice consolation prize. Later, as I was still searching, another superstorm started, and then it hit me. Not a meteor, but where the anomaly was. I'm not sure why I hadn't realized it before. In my first 100 days here, I found something very unique, and in the warden messages, it was clear that its purpose was to keep ships from landing here. This giant, mysterious, glowing orb. It was so beautiful, I wasn't really even sure if I wanted to blow it up. With a lot to think about, I made my way out. I took a little break at the museum to put out the new statue I'd found, taking one up to put on this table. Then I was still thinking that the warden's extraction capsule must be somewhere, and thought maybe the key detector would show me something new at this big old ship. But it didn't, and I was sad. I spent almost the whole next day just flying around looking for something I must have missed. Then I wondered if maybe I was just supposed to stick them in the storage on the extraction platform I'd made. I stuck them all in and the sky turned ominously blue. Oh, never mind. It's just another meteor storm. So I gave in and looked it up. Turns out I was right. They do go in here. I just have to blow up the anomaly first, either way. Well, that makes my decision a lot easier at least. Unless I want to stay here, the orb has to go. Though the thought of staying on this planet was tempting, the thought of using a giant explosive was even more tempting. I had everything I needed now to make it and took it all down to the old city, placing it carefully beneath the orb. Guess it's now or never. After the big boom, everything shook and I ran. It seemed like the whole place might come down. As I was almost out, it stopped, and I went back to see how much damage was done. It only caved in this one tunnel. The rest was still fine, and I headed back to base one more time. Next, I got one more message from Sentinel Corp. It said I could leave, and they would re-examine my sentence based on various deviations from the rules. No thanks. I'd certainly had an uneasy feeling about Sentinel Corp already, but this is making me think I should just give up on going back and go join the Wardens instead. I've got like a whole 15 days left to think though. No rush, right? It's not like I'm almost to day 200 or anything. I put off the decision and was working on upgrading this gas extractor at the automation station the next morning when I got one more message. I was a bit surprised and checked to find one last message from Riley. Looks like, for the cheap price of only 250,000 Terra tokens, they can arrange for a smuggler to pick me up that might or might not kill me. At the moment, that sounds about as fun as Sentinel Corp's plan. I wasn't sure and sent a couple trade rockets off with some stuff, but even with the 15 days I thought I had left, I didn't think I could make enough. The trade rocket just takes so long to come back. In hindsight, I suppose I could have just made more trade rockets. That would have been smart. But I didn't. Instead, I took one last look around at everything, and on the 199th day, I chose to leave with the Wardens, hopping in this rocket and blasting off through a portal to who knows where. You know where you can go, though? This next video. Or the comments, that's fine too. Just let me know what game you want to see me play next. Also, a big thanks to you guys for all the views, comments, and likes. This game has been one of my favorites, and I might have a soft spot for it since it was my first video to hit 1 million views. I never could have imagined the channel would make it this far, and it's honestly changed my life. So just keep being awesome, and I'll see you guys next time.